Picture this. Jessica sits alone in her dimly lit apartment with mascara streaking down her face. She's clutching her phone like a lifeline. The clock strikes midnight and her 36th birthday is officially over. With no calls, no texts, and no acknowledgement from the one person she desperately wants to hear from, her boyfriend Michael. And as Jessica sat there, she felt the weight of her unfulfilled dreams crashing down upon her. This birthday made her acutely aware of her biological clock ticking away. And all around her, friends from college were married with children and living the life she had always imagined for herself. And here she was, in another relationship that seemed to be slipping through her fingers. Because Michael had felt like her last hope, her final chance at a family that she dreamed of since childhood. But now, as she stared at her silent phone, she realized her once fairy tale romance had crumbled into a painful reality. But what she didn't know was that this moment would mark the beginning of her journey, a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love and self-worth and relationships. But things hadn't always been this way. No, Jessica and Michael's love story started like a fairy tale just 1 year earlier. That's when he was attentive and romantic and seemed to anticipate her every need. He sent her good morning texts and surprised her with lunch dates at work, and he planned weekend getaways. Michael was everything she had dreamed of in a partner and in a relationship. Things were so great that she dreamed of what their wedding would be like and how cute their babies would be. But as the months passed, things began to change. The good morning texts became sporadic, and date nights were replaced with maybe next week. And Jessica found herself constantly checking her phone, her heart sinking a little bit more each time she saw no new messages from Michael. And every disappointment felt like another loud tick of her biological clock and another step away from her dreams. But Jessica wouldn't give up without a fight. She tried everything that she could think of to recapture that early magic. She sent Michael sweet messages every morning, and she frequently asked him on dates, and she reminded him that she loved him. She would do anything to have his attention again. But the more she reached out, the more he seemed to pull away. And now, on her birthday, the day that she had hinted about for weeks, Michael had forgotten entirely. And as Jessica sat there with tears streaming down her face, she realized something had to change. But what and how? That's when Jessica reached out to me. I'm Dr. Antonio Borrello, a psychologist and relationship coach, and I've seen this scenario play out countless times. But Jessica's story was about to take an unexpected turn shortly after we began working together. Now, I remember our first session. Jessica was a bundle of nerves and insecurities, but she confided in me about her fears of losing Michael and her confusion over what she might be doing wrong. She told me about her frustration at trying so hard, only to feel like he cared less and less. I listened as Jessica poured out her heart, detailing every unanswered text and every canceled plan, and every night she'd lain awake wondering what had changed. She was definitely terrified of losing Michael, and because of it, she kept doing things that only pushed him further and further away. So I gently suggested to Jessica that the solution wasn't about changing Michael, but about changing herself and focusing less on Michael. And I know that surprised her and even confused her as she protested that doing less would surely lead to losing him. I could see the deep-seated fear behind her words. Because this wasn't just about Michael. It was about losing everything Jessica had hoped for in life. She saw Michael as her last hope and was terrified of another failed relationship and the prospect of having to start all over again. When I explained to Jessica that by holding on so tightly to Michael in the relationship, she was actually pushing him further away. And that's when I told her about my 7 steps to turn things around and get the love she deserved. I explained that she would have to stop talking to Michael about how he had changed and that she would need to pull back and stop being the one always reaching out to start daily communications or initiate plans with him. Instead, she would need to start focusing on herself and on her own needs. And as I explained the strategy and the steps, I could see the panic rising in Jessica's eyes. But I assured her that while it would be difficult and feel risky, it was the only way to turn things around. Not just with Michael, but with how she saw herself and her future. And of course, Jessica worried that he wouldn't reach out, that he wouldn't ask her for plans. And she worried that he would just fade away and that she would end up alone. And of course, I acknowledged this risk, but I challenged her to consider whether she'd rather continue as she was, constantly feeling anxious and undervalued, or take a chance on becoming the strong and independent woman that she could be. And that's the kind of woman who attracts the right partner and creates the life she wants. And after a few minutes of silence, Jessica agreed to try these steps. The next few weeks were a roller coaster for Jessica. Starting with the first step, not talking about missing Michael or complaining about his behavior was harder than she had anticipated, because every time her phone buzzed with a message from him, she had to fight the urge to pour out her feelings, to ask about their future, or to seek reassurance about her place in his life. But the real challenge came with the second step, when she needed to stop initiating communication. And the first day she didn't send her usual good morning text, Jessica was a nervous wreck. She checked her phone constantly, anxious that Michael wouldn't notice or care, and that she was throwing away her last chance at the family she dreamed of. And then 2 days passed in silence, and Jessica's anxiety was through the roof. But with encouragement from her friends and from her family, she held firm, reminding herself that this was about more than just Michael. It was about becoming the kind of woman who could create the life she wanted with or without him. And finally, on the third day, her phone buzzed. It was Michael asking if everything okay, as he hadn't heard from her in a while. Now, Jessica's heart raced as she crafted her reply, keeping it really light and breezy, and saying that she was fine, but that she had just been busy. And then she wished him a good week. And as the days went by, Jessica threw herself into rediscovering herself. She reconnected with her old friends and developed new hobbies and started going to the gym regularly. And slowly but surely, she felt her confidence returning. She even found herself thinking less about her biological clock and more about the life she was creating for herself. But doing the next step in the process was the real test for her. See, Michael called her last minute on a Friday evening, asking if she wanted to grab dinner. Now, in the past, Jessica would have dropped everything to say yes, as she was desperate for any chance to solidify their relationship and spend time with him. But this time, she had plans. She had planned a night out with her friends from class. And Jessica politely declined, explaining that she had planned but suggested that they could arrange something for the following week. Now, there was a pause on the other end of the line, but Michael agreed to plan something for the following week. And as Jessica continued to prioritize herself, she started to notice a major shift in Michael's behavior. He started texting more and asking about her day and asking about her new hobbies. He even started planning thoughtful dates in advance, and that's something he hadn't done in months. And Jessica found herself becoming less anxious about the relationship and more excited about the person she was becoming. But the real turning point came about 3 weeks into this new approach. Jessica had just returned from a weekend getaway with her girlfriends, a trip that she had mentioned to Michael, but she hadn't elaborated on. And as she was unpacking, her phone rang. It was Michael, asking to meet and talk in person. So they met at a new restaurant in town the very next evening. Now, Michael looked nervous. It was a stark contrast to his usual confident demeanor. But he opened up about how he had been feeling, and he had recognized how he had been taking her for granted. He expressed his desire to reconnect and rebuild the relationship. And that was Jessica's cue that the time was right to have the talk. So she calmly and confidently explained how she had felt neglected and unimportant in recent months and felt like she was constantly fighting for his attention. Then she outlined her expectations for the relationship and the changes she needed to see in him. And Jessica concluded by expressing her love for Michael, but also her newfound self-respect. She made it clear that while she wanted him to be the one, she was now willing to walk away if things didn't change. And those words hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. And for a moment, Jessica feared that she had gone too far, that this was the end, not just of the relationship, but of her dreams for a family. And that's when Michael reached across the table, taking her hand in his. He acknowledged her feelings and admitted that she deserved better. He expressed his desire to be the partner that she needed, and he asked for a chance to make things right. And in the months that followed, Jessica and Michael's relationship transformed. The balance of power had shifted, and they were now true partners. And Michael planned thoughtful dates and communicated openly and showed Jessica every day how much he valued and loved her. But more importantly, Jessica maintained her independence, her hobbies, and her newfound confidence. And 1 year after that tearful and forgotten birthday, Jessica and Michael sat in the same restaurant at the same table where they had previously had their heart-to-heart talk. And as they finished their dinner, Michael seemed nervous and he was fidgeting with something in his pocket. Suddenly, he stood up and moved to Jessica's side of the table. And Jessica's heart raced as Michael lowered himself onto one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a stunning engagement ring. And his heartfelt proposal brought tears to her eyes, and she nodded joyfully because she was unable to speak. And as he slipped the ring on, the restaurant burst into applause. When they finally sat back down, they were both beaming with happiness. Michael smiled at her, and he shared how he never thought he'd say this, but he was glad he'd forgotten her birthday last year. Not because it hurt her, he would always regret that, but because it was the wake-up call they both needed. It led Jessica to become this amazing and confident woman, and it pushed him to become the man she deserved. Jessica smiled, thinking back on the journey of the past year. She thought of the tears and the fear and the moments of doubt, but mostly she thought of the strength she had found within herself and the self-respect that she had cultivated and the beautiful, balanced relationship she now enjoyed. And as she looked at the ring sparkling on her finger, she realized that this engagement wasn't just the beginning of their life together. It was the culmination of a journey of self-discovery and growth for both of them. Now, at the end of this video, I'll share the 7 tips that Jessica used to transform her relationship. But these steps are not magic tricks to manipulate someone into loving you. They're tools to help you become the best and most confident version of yourself. Because when you truly value yourself, you create the space for a relationship built on mutual respect, appreciation, and love. You see, Jessica's story could be your story. Whether you're in a relationship that's lost its spark or you're single and looking for love, these principles do apply when you do them all in this order. Number 1, stop talking about missing him or complaining about his behavior. Number 2, stop initiating communication. Number 3, give him something to miss. Be the confident and fun-loving woman he fell for. Number 4, prioritize your life and start saying no to last-minute plans. Number 5, be a little mysterious. Don't share every detail of your life. Number 6, have an honest conversation about your expectations when the time is right. And number 7, be willing to walk away if your needs are not met. So if you engage in all 7 tips, then nothing changes and you find yourself walking away, you might want to watch this video where I share the signs that you've been blinded by love and are unable to see that a man is using you. I'll see you in the next video.